Thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show hosted by a French professor who every Thursday reviews a lesser-known artist. It's Thunderground Thursday, and today I'm going to be reviewing Trilogy by the Jamaican hip-hop group The Council of the Gods. Now this is something of a first for me because this is actually a viewer of the channel. I've known Council of the Gods, they've commented on many of my hip-hop videos over the past year or so, and they just happened to post that their album came out last Friday and that it is Thunderground Thursday worthy. Now it's a bit odd, I get a fair amount of submissions from people and I always listen to them. I don't always respond to them and I basically never review them. And it's mainly because I need three things to review. I need to like it, usually a lot. I need to have something to say and I have to have time. It's that third thing that makes it tough because, I try and do three or four videos a week. And believe it or not, there's so much good music out there, I just don't have that much time. But I did have an interesting angle with this album. And I'm particularly happy to talk about it because I really like what this album made me realize. There's hip hop in Jamaica? Is that surprising? Wait, why am I surprised? It's a country, it's got a city. Basically any country with a city has a hip hop scene. Why was I so surprised? This is the thing about diversity. Diversity is not just different people. It's understanding the complexity of people. You know what I mean? I think if we shift from thinking of diversity simply as black and white, but understanding the complexity of black and the complexity of white, that we get to something more interesting. Just yesterday, I have been rewatching The Sopranos with my wife, and there was a whole episode about Columbus Day. And everyone was upset that they were trying to rename it Indigenous Peoples Day. And the one person from Italy says, I don't like this. But then he says, I don't like Columbus anyways. I'm like, how do you not like Christopher Columbus? Well, I'm from the South and he was from the North. That little lesson for the Italian Americans that, it's not just one group. There's not just one Italian. There's many different kinds of Italian. And when you have music like hip hop, straight hip hop, coming from Jamaica, I think it teaches us the same lesson. It's weird as an American, where Jamaica has loomed so large in my mind. I think it's worth emphasizing the miracle of Jamaica. It has a population a little under that of the state of Kansas. Yet, I would argue, it is the second or third most important music-making country in the world. Okay? America, maybe England, and then Jamaica. Creating reggae and exporting it has made it such an amazing center of the world. What I've learned, though, is that all of these things that I assume about Jamaica in the past have just sort of fallen by the wayside. I made some friends when I lived in France. I actually went with these two girls, I guess they were young women, with two young women to Florence, Italy. And speaking of Northern Italy. And I was an art history major as well, and so I took these two Jamaican women on a guided tour, the Duomo and the Uffizi and all that, and it was this really fun time. And the same time that I was giving them lessons about Renaissance art, they were giving me lessons about Jamaican patois, what's the difference between men and mandem, and they were telling me about where they lived and what it was like, and I learned a lot of things. It turns out, not every person in Jamaica is a Rasta. As a matter of fact, that's a fairly rare thing to be a Rasta. And another thing is that obviously it's not all reggae. Even though reggae is a very dynamic music with lots of different forms and roots and dancehall, etc., and dub, it's not the only thing. And so this music I find is quite interesting as an example of real rebellion, because it isn't reggae at all. Now, before I go much further, I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to talk about this, but this album also reminds me of the importance of immigration and why our immigration policies should be as welcoming as possible. Hip-hop would not exist without Jamaican immigrants. If it weren't for cool DJ Herc, born in Kingston, moving to the Bronx at 12 years old, if it weren't for him, if it weren't for us welcoming him to the Bronx, would he have never created hip-hop on August 11th, 1973? would he have ever created the merry-go-round mixing technique that is the basis of breakbeats and all hip-hop sound. The influence of Jamaican toasters is what they're called. So, people who during parties while DJs would be playing, they'd be talking over them. Or even reggae artists like Roy, one of my personal favorites, who does a lot of this kind of talking over beats. If it weren't for the Jamaican influence, who knows if hip-hop would have even developed. Of course, it was mixed together with the breakbeats from American music, from James Brown, but it all goes together and goes to show that the strength of hip-hop, this great American creation, like all great American creations, is an American creation of immigration. There's no such thing as a pure American culture, and this is a reminder, even American hip-hop is not as simple as African Americans in the inner city. So, let's get to the actual album, 5 minutes in. The main thing I want to say about this before I even go further into it is I've been listening to it for the last couple of days on repeat everywhere I go, and it's just a really listenable, very likable album. I think you can listen to it in any setting. It's great on headphones, it's great in the car, it's great playing on the speakers. It's sort of an unexpected album. It's not, that's another thing, when we're talking about the complexity and the diversity of a place, I have a lot of preconceived notions about what Kingston's like. One of my best students is from Kingston, or she graduated. One of those students, which you don't get very often when you're a teacher, where you're just like, oh my God, she's so much smarter than me. I hope she doesn't figure that out I hope she figures that out after she graduates. And so she would also tell me a lot about Kingston. I learned a lot, and I sort of associate it as a busy metropolis, but I also associate it with a lot of crime, a lot of danger. And here in this album, it's not about crime. Some reference maybe to a little bit of drug dealing, but not much. It's not about living amongst crime. It's not even really about systematic racism or global racism. It's not particularly political. It's just a beautiful rap album. Just, here you go. Here are some good beats. Here are 3 MCs who are very good. We're just going to go. Good beats, good rhymes, nod your head, enjoy. In that way, it actually reminded me the most, stylistically, of the golden era of French hip-hop music in the late 90s and early 2000s, particularly the late 90s, in the sense where you feel a lot of love of hip-hop music, and you feel the music is being made partly out of love for the art form, not just as an artistic expression itself. There's a likability and a listenability, which I feel, if you take a good rap album from France in the late 90s and compare it to this, I think it'd be fairly similar. Very good bars, very good flow. Unfortunately, so when they comment on my channel, I don't know which of the 3 guys it is. There's 3 guys in this group. Their voices are distinguishable, but they don't announce themselves. And there's no they're not on Lyric Genius, right? This is Thunderground, This is super Thunderground. So I don't know who they all are. I just know it's like the guy with the kind of higher voice, the guy with the kind of lower voice, and the guy who does a little bit more switching into patois. One of the most interesting aspects of it is how their accent changes and accentuates and how the vocabulary changes. And it reminds you of just the code switching that goes on. And that's code switching that goes on with many people in this world. And certainly I imagine most people in Jamaica, where there's the language they can present in an official situation and a language they present with their friends. In some ways, the production on this album is kind of a producer battle. There's 3 or 4 producers who produce the entire album, and it's kind of fun. It reminds me a little bit of Hitler Wears Hermes Side A, where you had 3 or 4 producers, and they're kind of fighting against each other, and you were trying to see who was going to win. And in this case, I'm going to, ahead of time, declare the winner. It's a guy named Sun Ra. Very, very good production, but all of it's quite good. I just discussed, so last week or something, some hip-hop producer named Marcus Aurelius made a beat sampling one of my videos. So my dream is to have Council of the Gods and Marcus Aurelius get together for a super Professor Sky rap song. But that shouldn't happen. I'm just thinking about it. So let me tell you what this album is like. Let me tell you by giving you my stamp of the album. What I think is the best example of this music. I'm going to go with the song Cream Team. That's produced by Sun Ra, and it reminds me a lot of, like, the beat reminds me a lot of great vintage era RZA, vintage era Wu-Tang Clan, maybe even a little bit the beat from Apollo Kids. Really cool strings going from high to low. The kind of beat where I've got it going in my head right now while I'm speaking about it. It starts off kind of nerdy, like the rapping. Like, there's quite a few kind of nerdy things, like Mask of the Phantasm and Targaryen's Gonna Burn You and stuff like that. But it's a good verse, very solid. The second, and what's nice is, instead of having a chorus, they interrupt it with scratching. Like just scratching up words from other rap songs. Sounds a lot like something DJ Premier would do. And I would say it's on par with DJ Premier's ability to mix together just random lines, you know, getting cream with my team and microphone, just mixing all these things together. So each of these three verses, because there's the three people in the group, is broken up by the scratching. The second verse is quite nice. It's all based on just the sound like ass, you know, like it's not ass, but like it's all on the ash sound. Best exemplified by the line, most of these rappers is trash, selling out for cash. And then the third verse is quite solid, and then it ends with a cool kind of outro sound with some bell sounds. But I think if you listen to this, you'll hear what I'm saying about this. Just very likable, very enjoyable, unexpected album. Sorry, my notes got all mixed up. I don't edit, right? So I am just making sure that I have everything correct here. I apologize to the entire Council of the Gods. I'm not going to go through the rest of the album a little bit quicker. The opening track is called Drunk Samurai, produced by Sawandi. A very cool kind of jazz loop. With just at the very end of the loop, there's a little bit of a horn sound, which is quite nice, sort of a furious ride cymbal. Just straight bars after bars, like no break. Just the beat is basically just a bed for this verse. The high voice guy opens up. The second verse has some funny similes. Got you falling off the sunset like Michael B. Jordan. And then the song ends with saying, "Are you ready?" And this sort of highlights the fact this opening song is just to sort of set the stage. Leads into Live from Mozambique, produced by Time Cow, which is a very funny name. Is this like a time-traveling cow? Is it like a cow that like knows the time? Is it attached to that Jean-Claude Van Damme movie Time Cop, with the most hilariously bad futuristic car in movie history? I don't know, but I really like this beat from Time Cow. Very kind of atmospheric. There's a cool kind of like a Charlie Watts-ish beat where it's very behind on the beat, which creates really nice, really cool bars throughout. This has the best mixture of their accent and unaccented rhyming. So for the most part, you wouldn't necessarily know that they're from Jamaica except for sort of a slight accent. This one breaks a little bit more into the accent, into the patois. Frankly, I would have preferred more of that, but I don't know if I want more of that just out of some weird, you know, quasi-exoticist desire to hear interesting patois and code switching. If it's not how they actually want to rap, who am I to say what they should do? Some really nice rhymes in here, kind of funny similes. I'd say that's the primary thing that they're good at. They're good at rapping about why they're good and coming up with interesting lines. You know, stay ruthless like Eazy-E, take you out like Netflix did to DVD, which is kind of a funny, neat idea. Just, again, a little bit nerdy, but really quite good. Boy, my notes are just all mixed up. Apparently they're a part of some group called Equinox or Equinox. I'm not going to spell it for you. I think it's like I'm going to try. EQUINOKS. It's Equinox, but misspelled comically poorly. And there's just this great line in the middle, you know, the council and Equinox dropping out your speaker box. Just a very enjoyable, you know what I mean? Like that kind of late 90s feel of just sort of like just three guys just rapping together, kind of getting you psyched up, you know, just in your speaker box. The last verse is really quite nice. So the second verse has that more patois side, which I like. Then the third verse, Forrest No Whitaker, something indica, leave you with a lazy eye, pull the plug like the cable guy. It's nice to think about someone referencing both Forrest Whitaker and Cable Guy. Two great figures of cinema. Really nice underneath, there's like a change in the beat as it goes along, and just the flow at the end of the song. This was almost my stamp, because I just love the way the beats, the rhymes just keep coming at the end. Instant Replays, another track produced by Sun Ra. Super boom bap beat, kind of piano led. It changes with the verse, which is quite nice. What I like here is at some point they say speaker box, but they never come back with the equinox rhyme. So it's nice, because obviously they just did that in the previous song, and I remember listening thinking like, oh, you can't rhyme speaker box and equinox in 2 songs in a row, and they don't. At the end of the song, they reference what they're doing, and they're saying that the flows or the rhymes are crafted right. And I would say that's one thing about this whole album. The whole thing is crafted right. Homage to Her, produced by Sawandi. Okay. So this is a love song, and ever since my friend Jonathan, he would play the album Bad by LL Cool J when I was a kid, which is a great album. Maybe the best LL Cool J album ever made. Yeah, it might even be better than Radio. Bad is an amazing album. Except he would only play I Need Love. Play it and rewind it, play it and rewind it. And ever since that day, any rap love song that I hear, I just can't get behind. So, you know, this is not quite for me. Some pretty cringy lyrics, like you're the only one who can turn that frown upside down, and is she the one for me to put my seed in? But upon listening to it 3 or 4 times, it's not like it's a bad song. And as far as love songs go, it strikes the right tone, as far as like being like lustful and respectful at the same time. As opposed to just reducing a woman to her curves, it's talking about her curves and her words. So it's at least a positive or progressive love song. But still, I haven't heard the song as much as the rest because I skip it. But I need a love. I sit in my room, I hear my conscience call. I could do the whole song for you, and I've never listened to it on purpose. Next song is called Kingston City Skyline by Time Cow. Moo. Tick, 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 tick. Hey, Time Cow, you need a producer signature. And it's got to be a cow with the sound of a clock behind it. Moo. Tick, 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 tick. Okay. Nice sparse beat here, kind of bass heavy. I was trying to place it. It took me a while. It is a little bit not too sparse because I have these cool kind of drums that come in at the end of each bar. But then I realized it's a lot like it's all about the Benjamins beat, you know, off the Diddy song. And just very simple, great raps. As a coffee fanatic, I really appreciate that it makes a reference to froth you up like a latte and then like give you 2 shots like espresso. Kind of funny, like coffee related. Of course, Jamaican coffee is extremely good. Very hard to get in America, Jamaican coffee. And this also has probably the best mixture of like the accent and the straight flow and that kind of slight code switch between what sounds like fairly standard East Coast rapping and Jamaican infused East Coast style rapping. Getaway, produced by Sawandi, has cool kind of odd chopped up beat with some voices in the background. This is interesting because it's sort of a vacation song. And this reminds me a little bit of the old school, you know, where rappers could just come up with like a theme for a song. You know, like I imagine Run DMC sitting around in a room being like, what if we did a song about somebody who talked too much? Huh? A whole song? Yeah, let's do it. You know, like that's a thing that they used to do. This feels like they got together and just said, let's just do a whole song about the need to get away. Which of course is interesting for a band from Jamaica, which is a place that many people go to at exploitative resorts. I'm not going to get into it. Part of the reason I've never been to Jamaica is because I don't know how to go yet. I would love to learn how to go to Jamaica without having to go to the exploitative resorts, but I have not yet figured out how to do that yet. But it's interesting because it's talking a little bit about like just the desire to get away. And then there's a whole verse that's about COVID. And it's a great verse about COVID. It's like anger at people who are not taking it seriously. Like, talk about, you say that you're on a yacht and it's not a super spreader event at a party on a yacht. It's kind of a weirdly funny specific thing. It's about masks, about the difficulty of telecommuting, all these sorts of things. You know, there haven't been that many songs about COVID on a sort of technical aspect, like about working from home and about the frustration of other people not taking it seriously. And here we have in the middle of this song, the desire to get away. And you understand that the desire to get away can also be a reflection, not just the difficulty of living in a busy city, but also the difficulty of living under quarantine. Next song is then Cream Team, which I've already mentioned, which is really quite a great song. And then the EP ends, it's a short EP, it's like 27 minutes, not too long, is with What Goes Around, and that's by Time Cow. Moo! This reminds me a lot of Petit Frère by I Am, sort of a song about the difficulties of growing up in the hood or growing up in poverty. It has like a cool, like especially the third verse is really nice. It describes how someone sort of falls into this life of petty crime. And it's cool because it's a gentle beat with a siren. You're gonna have to listen to find out what I mean. How can a song have a siren in it and be a gentle beat? I don't know. But all the way through, it's a nice song that tells these good stories. And again, throws back, maybe this was the song that reminded me most, obviously, of French hip-hop of the golden age, because this kind of messaging, you know, it's not heavy-handed, over-the-head politics messaging about how you have to do this and this is the problem and the global Illuminati is doing this. No, it's just telling little simple stories about these people who are in these tough spots. So there's my review, the Council of the Gods trilogy. I hope that Council of the Gods comment on this video. Tell me the things that I missed. Tell me which rapper's which is the high voice guy, which is the lower voice guy, and which is the guy who does more of the stuff in the patois. You know, I'm happy to have discovered them. And it's also just sort of interesting to me, like, now that more people are watching this channel, like, what kind of music do people make if they like this channel? You know, I mean, obviously they're not connected, right? The music would exist without me, but still, what kind of musical creative people am I drawing in? And if this is an indicator, then man, that's awesome. Okay, well, until next time, for Cool DJ Herc and I, Roy, there's the camera.